There's two things that I really hate. Number one, when a new TV series comes out and they only give you 3 of the 10 episodes and you're right, like you're in binge mode and you get through episode number 3 and they're like, coming out next Friday. No, forget that. Forget that. Number two, the government trying to take your money in the form of taxes. Maybe it's a necessary evil, but I don't like it. And well, cruisers are getting ready to be faced with another government tax because you like to go cruising. Plus, we've got a lot of other things going on, including another Carnival brand increasing their gratuities. Cruise news and my views. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Lido, Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise news and views for your face. For your face on February the 8th, 2024. It's a Thursday. I hope you guys are having a great week. But look, I won't tax you by, waxing on poetic, maybe later. But yes, no taxing of your time. Let's talk about a new tax that is fixing to be levied against cruise lines and cruisers and cruise places. A tax that has not existed until this moment, and a tax that we didn't really think was going to exist. We're talking about the value-added tax on cruise line private islands in the Bahamas. There has been a long-standing no value-added tax proposition from the Bahamas as they've encouraged cruise lines to put their private islands in and around the Bahamas. Well, now I guess the time has run out. We're talking about a 9-year run here where there's been no value-added tax levied on cruise lines' private islands. And I guess it's time that the Bahamian government take their cut of what the cruise lines are doing. The new tax, which will take place on March the 1st, which is kind of a surprise to many people, will be a 10% VAT tax, value-added tax on all goods and services that are provided on cruise line private islands. It kind of really is a brilliant time to levy these taxes because you got all the cruise lines out there cawing about how they've got tons of stuff booked already, and the timing of this thing makes it a challenge. Somebody's going to lose some money on this, and it could happen in a lot of ways. Eventually, cruisers will feel the pain, but right now, the cruisers can't really feel the pain because many of those, March cruises are already booked. Who's going to have to pay this tax? It's gonna be the cruise lines. It's going to come out of their pocket. But the cruise lines do have an interesting lever that they can pull. Sometimes they can adjust commissions that are to be paid out to travel advisors. This thing called a non-commissionable fee. They can kind of pass some of these charges on to travel advisors. Hopefully they don't do that, but that is a lever that has been pulled before, an adjustment of the non-commissionable fees. And so, look, all of a sudden there's going to be a 10% tax hitting the cruise lines, and they're going to have to pay it. They're going to have to come up with the money, and then eventually they'll be able to bake that into future cruises. So for cruisers that are going to one of the many private islands in the Bahamas, and every cruise line has one, essentially, you could see an increase in your overall cruising cost. It's going to be interesting to see how the industry responds to this. The Bahamas hit the cruise industry with a tax increase last July, increasing the daily passenger fee from $18 to $23. And then just back in January, they came up with a new tax charging cruisers $5 per head for a tourism and environmental fee. And then here we are in February with a whole other new tax, and into a 9-year tax exemption, as it were, now a value-added tax, a VAT tax on the private islands. Interestingly, I kind of had some of this conversation yesterday with Matt from Royal Caribbean blog. That'll be on next week's podcast that comes out on Monday. But I did ask that question, do you think these private island plays, how do you feel like the local governments feel about that? And at least in the Bahamas, they're like, we'd like our cut, please. We'd like to get some of that private island money. I get, look, that's life, that's business, that's government, that's all of those things. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to make a more expensive experience for cruisers, which That's not super exciting. Look, also, we have another Carnival brand increasing their gratuities. I'm going to tell you about that later, which is just going to be more money. But we have some other cruise news to process through. Let's talk about an exciting announcement yesterday from Princess Cruise Lines. They've announced their second, it's not annual. The first one they did it in 2022, but their second Love Boat cruise, where they're going to bring back cast members from the original Love Boat TV show for a special 1-week sailing. This time, the Love Boat cruise will happen on the Enchanted Princess. It's going to sail round trip from New York City, yes, New York City, August the 31st through September the 7th, 2024. And you'll get Doc, Gopher, Isaac, and Vicky Stubing. Those are not their real names. Those are, characters. But it's Jill Whalen. It is also Bernie Koppel, Fred Grandy, and Ted Lang will be on this cruise ship, and this will be one of those going New York up the East Coast. Going to go to Boston, Newport, Rockland, Maine, St. John, and Halifax in Canada. Look, this is fun. I talked to my brother yesterday. I think he's going to book this cruise. If you're nostalgic for the Love Boat at all, there's no better way to feed that nostalgia than to go on a cruise. Number one, that I think anybody that's connected with the Love Boat, every time you cruise, you kind of think about it a little bit. And then number two, to do it on a theme cruise where you get to hang out with people that were on the TV show. Interesting cruise here. Is this something you're interested in? Leave a comment below. Cruise news story number 3. And look, I mentioned it a little bit, talking about TV shows that only release a few episodes that are binge worthy. And then you run into the wall where, the one that I'm talking about, I've been watching Masters of Air on Apple TV, and this is about bombardiers in World War II, and it got good. It got good, and I just got through episode 3 yesterday evening, and then it was like, up next, Ted Lasso. I'm like, Ted Lasso? What about episode 4 of Masters of the Air? And, it was like, coming out Friday. I'm also watching a reality show called The Traitors. It happens in Scotland. The Traitors. And now I'm to a place where I have to wait a week to watch that. It's okay. I do love the ritual of TV, but I think you have to make yourself awares when you sit down to binge watch something, that whether or not you can binge the whole series or not. But another favorite TV show of mine has a cruising tie-in, and I'm talking about Top Chef. This is the culinary cooking competition, kind of an elevated competition. Like, you got Hell's Kitchen with Gordon Ramsay, and that's kind of like, it's not really about the cooking. It's about, Gordon Ramsay calling people donkeys and yelling a lot. Top Chef is really about legit restaurateurs, chefs, all those kind of folks kind of are on the higher end of the culinary spectrum doing their thing. And well, excitingly, the season 21 that's coming up that will be on TV soon, its finale and the show before the finale, the competition before the finale, all filmed on a Holland American Cruise Line cruise ship. It's already happened. There's been people that talked about it. They can't really say who won or lost, but they've seen it filmed. And of course, they have a partnership with classic Iron Chef Morimoto, who was present for this, Top Chef finale. The episodes for Top Chef were shot on the Holland America Line Eurodam, and the finale was shot in Curacao. So it's going to be interesting to watch season 21. Are you a Top Chef fan? Leave a comment below. Cruise news story number 4, just a quick warning. I've been getting emails and I've seen a couple news reports of a very scary situation that's played out recently for a couple ladies who went on a cruise. They are reporting that while on a cruise, they went to an all-inclusive resort in the Bahamas, and that the worst thing that could happen to 2 young ladies happened after their drinks were spiked. Authorities are involved both in the Bahamas and in the United States. The particulars of this story are not necessarily advertiser friendly, and so I really can't go into great detail, but I will leave a link to an article about this. But yeah. Rough story. Now let's take a moment and talk about the Carnival magic. I talked to you yesterday about the challenges she had in Ocho Rios. She was docked at that cruise port there, and there was swells of wind and big surges of the sea, and one of the pier fenders collapsed, causing the magic to slam into the pier, causing this damage to the Carnival magic. I related to you how she had to leave that pier, leaving some passengers on shore and then eventually go to another pier and reuniting the passengers. Stayed an extra day in Ocho Rios. Well, I'm happy to report that she did leave Ocho Rios for her next port of call in Bimini, and she is on schedule to return back to Miami on her regular schedule. So seaworthy, banged up a little bit. One thing I did not mention about that story yesterday, the Carnival Magic is currently hosting a theme cruise called Shiprocked. And look, I think it's a music cruise, but it could be like a music horror cruise. Here's the lineup. I felt like I knew a lot of music. I don't think I know many of these people at all. So I've got a whole list of people that I got to try to listen to now. But what kind of music is this? Who's hot crazy? I mean, I know a few people that are hot crazy, but I'm not thinking about Jenny B. I am thinking about Jenny B. She's both of those things in a good way. But yeah, do you know these bands? Interesting. You ended up with some Twisted Metal on the Carnival Magic, maybe because they're hosting some Twisted Metal. I'm just kidding. I don't think one has anything to do with the other. And then that takes us into our next cruise news story, which is a sad cruise news story. We have another theme cruise that's going on right now. We have the Outlaw Country cruise going on that is going on the Norwegian Pearl. Here's the lineup. I recognize a few of these folks. But we have very sad news coming off of that cruise that Mojo Nixon had a cardiac event and passed away on this cruise. I don't know much of Mojo Nixon, but I think his popular song is Elvis Everywhere. I listened to a little bit of it. It sounds kind of like a comedic, parody type vibe when it comes to country. He was 66 years old. Of course, the statement that came out from his family was like, he lived hard and he partied hard. And this might have been a good way or a way that, I don't think anybody wants to go, but they've got a good attitude about it. Like this is, living that rock and roll life, living that music life. Passing away on a cruise ship, maybe that's not the worst way to go, is kind of what the family statement is. But certainly our condolences go out to the family and fans of Mojo Nixon. And it's the part and parcel for cruising. It's the best of times and the worst of times sometimes. And there you go. Now, we're only the second month into 2024, and we have another Carnival cruise brand raising their gratuities. Yay. I'm going to tell you which one. But before I do that, let me quickly invite you to subscribe if you like staying up to date with everything going on in cruising. I just want to say this. I've had a lot of people comment to me that every day when I do the cruise hands, the cruise jazz hands, cruising, there's several people that do it with me. And so I did a non-scientific study, and I found that, 12 out of 10 doctors agree that if you do the cruising along with me, that it's good for your spirit. So shall we do it all together now? Look, even if you're a curmudgeon, you don't want to do it, try it. See if it changes your countenance. See if it makes, all right, all together on 3. 1, 2, 3, cruising. Gosh, did it feel good that we did it? I felt that rush of energy. All this to say, please subscribe with the notification bell on. You won't miss anything. A big thank you in advance. All right. We got the old fancy pants Cunard Cruise Line raising their gratuities starting in April. They have 2 classes of cabins. They got the lower class and the higher class. They have special names, but you know what I mean. You're going to be in either one of them, like a suite class or a regular class. They're going up $1.50 per class. Currently, the 2 pricings are $14.50 per person per day and $16.50 per person per day, beginning on April the 25th or April the 27th, depending which Cunard cruise ship that you are on. Those prices will increase to $16 per day per person and $18 per person per day. It's only $1.50 a day. Who cares? But it's, we've said it before, it's the death by 1,000 cuts. We just saw Holiday America Line raise their gratuities last month, and I think there's like 9 Carnival brands, so why not? Let's just have them all one a month. Let's just raise it up. You raise me up so I can pay more gratuities. You raise me up. Shout out Ludacris. Boom, that's your cruise news. Hope you're happy paying more money for cruising. Look, I'm just sour grapes. That's the way life is. We all pay more right now, and we all still love cruising, but dag nabbit, I'd rather spend my money in the casino or the candy shop or at the photo place or in the watch store. Am I right? Boom. Like I said boom already. Double boom ya. Boomy, boomy. That's your cruise news for Thursday. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Big shout out. Lots of love to the Loca famous. Tony for La Lido Loca. Till the next time. We'll see you on the Lido. Bye. Cruise news.